Good morning to all. I welcome you all for this 5 days national online course organized by PG and Research Department of Chemistry, JMC, Trichy. I am Dr. G. Hema Sindhuja, Assistant Professor of Chemistry Department, Jamal Muhammad College, Trichy. I feel very happy to share some ideas and facts in this topic, Chemistry of Environment, in this session. Let me share the concepts with four different contents, and I will be discussing the basic concepts of these four contents along with some interesting facts behind. Now, let me start. Chemistry is a big part of our everyday life. We find chemistry in the air we breathe, food we eat, our emotions, daily products, and literally in all the objects we see and touch. From carbon in the trees to oxygen in the air, chemistry is everywhere. Here's a look at the basic chemistry. We gain some environmental facts that happen around us. I'll discuss this session with four different contents: air, water, soil, and fire. Let me start with air. Air. It is a mixture of gases such as nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, neon, and helium as a traces. It also includes noble gases, water vapor, dust particles, and traces of other gases. Here the nitrogen content is of high, which is 78%, and oxygen is of 21% nearly, and carbon dioxide with minimum percentage 0.03%, and the rest of the other gases as a trace amounts like argon, neon, krypton, xenon, etc. It allows us to hear sounds, feel heat or cold, burn a fire, breathe, and for plants to do photosynthesis. Functions of air: life giving oxygen, body cooling, transmittance of smell and hearing, disease causation as a pollutants. Importances of air: we all need air to survive. Air contains oxygen and carbon dioxide, which is useful to plants and animals. Plants use carbon dioxide of the air to make their own food by the process called photosynthesis. The process of converting light energy into energy stored in the covalent bond of glucose molecules. This is the photosynthesis. Six molecules of carbon dioxide with six molecules of water in the presence of light energy gives glucose molecule and six molecules of oxygen. This oxygen is considered as the source for all atmospheric oxygen. Photosynthesis consists of two sets of reaction. One is light dependent reaction, another one is the dark reaction. Light reaction converts sunlight energy into chemical energy, which is stored in ATP and NADPH. Whereas dark reactions uses chemical energy from light reaction to make glucose. This chlorophyll is a pigment which is present in the leaves of the plants that gives green color. Here, this is a major pigment which absorbs red and blue color and reflects green color. This green light passes on through or is reflected, causing the leaves to be appear green. Whereas accessory pigments such as carotenoids, example beta carotene, absorbs green and blue light and reflects red and yellow color. So since we are studying about this oxygen and air, we'll now see about the oxygen producer. The largest oxygen producer is the Amazon forest, which is considered as the lungs of our planet. The Amazon rainforest covers over a billion acres and it produces more than 20% of the world oxygen. More than half of the world's estimated 10 million species of plants, animals, and insects live in this tropical rainforest. One-fifth of the world's fresh water is in the Amazon basin. It provides the essential environmental world service of continuously recycling carbon dioxide into oxygen. It also has secondary metabolites, alkaloids, etc. And this alkaloids protects plants from diseases and other insect attacks. We are talking about oxygen and now we can see the color of oxygen. As a gas, elemental oxygen is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. However, if you cool it down enough to liquefy or freeze it, it becomes pale blue. This is due to oxygen become paramagnetic when it condenses into liquid or solid phase. This unpaired electron creates a magnetic asymmetry in the molecule and this creates an absorption band in the visible spectrum. This absorbs red light resulting in a blue color. Now we'll see on the air pollution. Human activities are polluting air with the toxic gases from industries, transports, homes, etc. These gases accumulate in the atmosphere and affect the layer that protects the earth. There are two major causes of air pollution. One is from natural sources, that is from wildfire, volcano, methane dust, etc. Another from human sources like automobiles, fumes, industries, uh, fireplaces, etc. The environmental effect of this air pollution is global warming, ozone depletion, acid rain, smog, and etc. Now we'll see on this global warming. The biggest contributor to the global warming. The first thing the IPCC concluded is that there are several greenhouse gases responsible for warming and humans emit them in a variety of ways. Most come from the combustion of fossil fuels in cars, buildings, factories, and power plants. The gas responsible for this global warming is carbon dioxide. Carbon as a blanket. Here, this carbon acts as a blanket of the Earth and it surrounds the planet Earth, preventing too much of heat from escaping and thus creates the warm conditions that sustain life. As humans burn more and more fossil fuels, more carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere and more heat is trapped on the planet. Greenhouse gases are the gases in Earth's atmosphere that trap heat. The major greenhouse gases are water vapor, CO2, methane, ozone, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbons, and etc. However, these gases are also produced by human activities such as industry, electricity generation, transportation, and agriculture. Scientists have shown that the interest in increase in greenhouse gas concentrations is a direct result of changes in human activity. Before industrial revolution, humans depended on manual labor, animal energy, wind power, and water power to do work and produce goods. But during the industrial revolution, the focus shifted rapidly to coal-fired steam engines and the mass production of goods. Human society so more and more depended on the consumption of fossil fuels, and as a result, more and more greenhouse gases were emitted. Now we'll see about the smog. The smog is the smoke in addition with the fog. This is a visible air pollution composed of nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxides, ozone, smoke, and other particulates. This man-made smog is of due to vehicular emissions, industrial emissions, forest and agricultural fires, photochemical reactions of these emissions. So these are all the causes of this smog, which results in a heavy air pollution. Since we are seeing about this air pollution, the other major factor which is responsible for this air pollution is the harmful gases which is released by the refrigerant and the air conditioners. We all know that the gas used is freon, which is merely a marketed name for dichloro difluoromethane or CFC chlorofluorocarbon. Air conditioners do not produce harmful gases, but in the case of poor maintenance or improper disposal, this freon gas is released. In terms of this modern refrigerator, nowadays the gas named HFC 134A, that is tetrafluoroethane, is used instead of freon. Here I have given the data of various refrigerants with a global warming potential value and the ozone depletion potential value. For example, R22 is represented as chlorotifluoromethane, R410A is represented as hydrofluorocarbons, R32 is difluoromethane, and propane R290, isobutane R600A. For the chloro-difluoromethane and hydrofluorocarbons, the global warming potential value is very high, that is 1810 and 2088. But when we compare to that of R290, propane and isobutane R600A, the global warming potential value is very low and the ozone depletion potential value is of very zero. So these refrigerant releases toxic gases and these toxic gases affect the ozone layer. So there is a ozone layer depletion occurs. The main cause of this ozone depletion and the ozone hole is due to manufactured chemicals, halocarbons, solvents, refrigerants, propellants, etc. These solvents and the chemicals are known as the ozone depleting substances. These compounds are transported into the stratosphere by turbulent mixing after being emitted from the surface, mixing much faster than the molecules can settle. So these are all the effects of the air pollution. Now let me move on to the water. Water is a chemical substance with the formula H2O. The water is very important in life because it is vital. Hence, we call water is an elixir of life. The animals or humans drink water because the body needs 75% of water for physical activities. Water covers 70% of the earth, that is like two-thirds parts of the earth. 97% of water on earth is salt water, and only 3% is fresh water. That 3% we are using it for our domestic purposes and other irrigation purposes. This is the sources of water. It is mainly divided into surface water, which is of from lakes, ponds, streams, etc., and groundwater from open wells, tube wells, etc. And the uses of water we can classify as consumptive use, partial consumptive use, or non-consumptive use. Consumptive use is for irrigation, partial consumptive use, domestic, industrial, fire demand, etc. A non-consumptive use, navigational use, recreational, power generational, pollution control, etc. So now we can see about this rainwater. Rainwater is a mixed electrolyte that contains varying amount of major and minor ions. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, chloride, bicarbonate, and sulfate ions are major constituents together with ammonia, nitrate, nitrite, nitrogen, and other nitrogenous compounds. This rainwater can carry bacteria, parasites, viruses, and chemicals that could make you sick, and it has been linked to disease outbreaks. This is the raining process. Here, this surface water is getting evaporated by the presence of sunlight, and it gets condensed. And it after condensation, after cooling by the atmosphere, it is formed as a cloud. These tiny droplets are combined to form large droplets, and the large droplets, by the precipitation reaction, fell down as a water molecule, and after percolation, it is stored as a groundwater. This is a rainy process. Since we are talking about this rain water, we can also ask a question: does acid rain affect this kind of architecture? Normal rain is not neutral like pure water, but it's slightly acidic at around 5.6 pH or lower. Industrial areas have reported an acid rain below a 2.4 pH. Rainwater becomes weakly acidic because carbon dioxide in the atmosphere reacts with water to form carbonic acid. But sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide molecules resulting from industrial pollution and automobile exhaust reacts with rainwater to form strong acids. These molecules react together to cause acid rain, and this acid rain affects very higher buildings, monuments, architecture, etc. You can see in this slide. This acid rain can damage buildings, bridges with metallic parts that are exposed to rain and fog. Not only does acid rain aggressively dissolve calcium in stone, but it corrodes certain types of metals. Some types of metal is getting corroded by this acid rain. Vulnerable metals include bronze, copper, nickel, zinc, and certain types of steels. So architects choose limestone, marble, steel, and brass as durable metals intended to resist the elements. So this is about this acid rain. So since we are talking about this water, we can see the color of water. We all know that water is not blue due to the reflection of the sky. It is blue on its own. Any object shows a given color because it is observing visible light from some other wavelength preferentially. Water has a weak absorption band in the red part of the visible spectra. So for this reason, water is showing a blue color. That is, this red absorption band is so weak, and so only we can observe the blue color if we have a massive volume of water. See, for example, if you are having water in a glass, it appears to be colorless. But bigger volumes such as oceans, lakes, or sea, it is appears to be blue. This is for this reason of absorption band. Why does ice float on water? This depends upon this density. The less dense will float on the top of the denser. The density of ice is around 10% lower than the one for water. Rivers and lakes freeze from the top, so animals can still survive in the liquid water below. Ice floats on water because it is less dense than water. When water freezes into its solid form, its molecules are able to form more stable hydrogen bonds, locking them into positions. Because the molecules are not moving, they are not able to form as many hydrogen bonds with other water molecules. Now we'll see the desalination of water. We all know that this desalination is a process that takes away from minerals components from saline water. Environmental impact of seawater desalination plants. What happens when this desalination of seawater occurs? That is, the pollutant increases the seawater temperature, salinity, water current, and turbidity. This also harm the marine environment, causing fish to migrate from one place to another place, and it enhances the presence of algae, nematodes, and tiny mollusks. The major three problems associated with this desalination are drought, climate, and population growth. Now let us see about this water pollution. It is the contamination of water bodies very often by human activities. That is the physical, chemical and the biological properties of this water is destroyed by the human activities and it is not used for domestic or drinking purposes. The major cause of this water pollution is the dumping of household waste into water. Next one, the sewage wastes are disposed into the water. Then the solid waste or dump are filled into the water resources so that it affects the aquatic life and also it causes many diseases among the humans and the other living organisms. The industries releases many toxic gases and the chemicals into the water so that the water properties gets changed and it's destroyed. The acid rain is also one of the causes of this water pollution. The oil industry such as um, petroleum industries spill over the oils into the water and so it is getting polluted. Effects of water pollution, death of aquatic organisms, rivers are changed into dustbin so that there is a shortage of drinking water and the BOD level increases. The biological oxygen demand is defined as the measure of dissolved oxygen required to decompose the organic matter in water biologically. Pure water normally has less than 1 ppm of BOD, whereas this polluted water is have greater than 5 ppm of BOD. So these are the effects of water pollution. Since we are talking about this water pollution, let me ask one question that let me discuss something about this Pamban Bridge. We all know that Pamban Bridge is a railway bridge which connects the town of Mandapam in mainland India with Pamban Island and Rameshwaram. It was India's first sea bridge and was the longest sea bridge in India until the opening of the Bandra Worli Sea Link in 2010. The question is, why does the Pamban Bridge still not rust? That is, even though in the seawater, it is present in the seawater, that is in the salt water, the Pamban Bridge does not get corroded. The reason is they are using duplex stainless steel. This duplex stainless steel is used to protect this Pamban Bridge. It is made up of two-phase ferritic austenitic 22% chromium, 3% molybdenum, and 5 to 6% nickel alloyed stainless steel. And this stainless steel helps this Pamban Bridge not to get corroded. Next, we'll see about the soil. Soil is the mixture of minerals, organic matter, gases, liquids, and the myriads of organisms that together support plant life. There are five components of soil. Rock, it is made up of big stones with minerals. Sand, it is made up of tiny grains of rock with many nutrients. Silt, it is a broken pieces of rock, and clay is a wet soil, and whereas humus is a leaves, twigs, and small animals or other decayed substances. Composition of soil, if we see, mineral is composed of mineral consists of 45%, water constitutes 25%, air 25% in clay soil, whereas the organic matter is of very less amount. But in sandy soil, mineral constitutes 64%, air constitutes 25%, water constitutes 10%, and so the composition of the air, water, and mineral depends upon the types of the soil. Soil properties. The soil properties we see soil pH is 6.5, available phosphorus value 16.1, organic carbon content, nitrogen content, and the exchangeable carbon content, potassium, magnesium content, and the color of the soil is dark brown. The physical properties includes surface sealing, aggregation, porosity, water movement, and availability. Whereas the chemical properties of the soil includes the presence of pH, the presence of sodium content, presence of nutrient availability, soluble salts, etc. Biological properties includes the macrofauna, microfauna, microorganisms, roots, biological activity, organic matter, etc. In this slide, I have shown the essential and the beneficial elements which is required for the plant growth. That is the green color elements like magnesium, calcium, iron, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine indicates the essential mineral element which is responsible for the higher plant growth. And the yellow color elements is like sodium, cobalt, silica, and selenium is represented as the beneficial mineral element. And whereas light blue color, that is hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, are considered as the essential non-mineral element. Here I have shown the essential elements and the macronutrients sources. Here the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are sourced from air, water, and soil, whereas the other elements such as potassium, phosphorus, boron, zinc, copper, molybdenum are sourced from soil or other fertilizers. And the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, sulfur are considered as a macronutrients which is required for the plant growth. The other elements such as iron, manganese, boron, molybdenum, copper, zinc, chlorine, nickel, cobalt, sodium, and silicon are considered as the micronutrients which is needed for the plant growth. Then we move on to the soil pollution. It is defined as the change in physical, chemical, and biological conditions of the soil through man's intervention, resulting in degradation of the quality. There are two types of soil pollution, two causes of soil pollution. One is from natural causes like landslides, hurricanes, and disasters, whereas man-made causes like urbanization, industrial waste, agricultural waste, mining, domestic waste, radioactive waste, garbage, etc. The most common chemicals involved in the soil pollution are petroleum hydrocarbons, heavy metals, pesticides, and solvents. The major environmental effects of the soil pollution are it reduces the fertility of the soil, it leads to soil erosion, it reduces the nitrogen fixation, and due to this, there is an imbalance in the ecological impact and waste management problems. Since we are seeing the soil pollution, let us see the effect of e-waste on the environment. When this e-waste is warmed up, toxic chemicals are released into the air, damaging the atmosphere. And not only the air, it also affects the water and also the soil. When electronic waste is thrown away in landfills into the water or the soil, it affects both land and the sea animals. This electronic waste contains toxic components that are dangerous to human health, and the toxic components are mercury, lead, cadmium, polybrominated flame retardants, barium, and lithium. And there are many negative health effects because of these substances on humans, which includes brain damage, heart damage, liver, kidney, and skeletal system damage. We are talking about this e-waste on the environment. Now we'll see the plastics. What are the impacts of plastics on the environment? Before seeing the impacts of plastic, we can see the numbers representing the plastics. To summarize, there are 7 types of plastics exist in our current modern days. In all the plastics, it is represented by numbers. 1, which represents PET, polyethylene terephthalate. 2, high density polyethylene. 3, polyvinyl chloride. 4, LDPE, low density polyethylene. 5, polypropylene. 6, polystyrene, and others. If you see water bottles or some other plastic bottles, there will be some numbers represented, which is denotes that water bottle is made up of this kind of plastics. I have shown this table here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1, it is used for soft bottles, sport bottles, condiment bottles, etc. 2 is used for this detergent bottles, shampoo bottles, bags, etc. This PVC number 3 is used for plumbing pipes, plastic children toys, flooring, children play mats, etc. This 4 LDPE is used for garbage bags, cleaning bags, produce bags, paper, milk cartons, cups, etc. This 5 polypropylene is used for food containers, furniture, luggage, and etc. And sixth number, polystyrene is used for cups, plates, containers, trays, etc. Whereas the seven, bisphenol A and others, it is not made from the above six plastics and it is lumped together. It is used for baby bottles and headlight lenses. These are the numbers representing the types of plastics. So how to make a better plastics? Environmentally friendly plastics falls into three categories. One is bioplastics. This can be made from natural materials such as corn starch. Another one is biodegradable plastics. This is made from traditional petrochemicals but which are engineered to break down more quickly. Next one is the recycled plastics. These are simply plastics which is made from recycled plastic materials rather than the raw petrochemicals. So if you are using these three types of plastics, it can be biodegradable and it can be recycled. So it will not destroy the soil or water. Next, we'll move on to the fire. Fire is the visible effect of process of combustion. Classes of fire, we can give it as six classes. Class A is of wood, cloth, paper. Class B is of flammable and combustible liquids and gases. Class B is of natural gases, whereas Class D is of magnesium, sodium, titanium, potassium, that is metals. Class E is of electrical equipment, and Class F is of kitchen fires, cooking oil, etc. Actually, how this fire happens? What are the elements? That is heat of the optimum temperature and any fuel such as wood, paper, petrol or kerosene and the oxygen. These three elements combine together in the process of combustion to form a fire. Since we are talking about this fire, let me move on to the interesting question. How does the sun burn without oxygen? Sun is made mostly of hydrogen, which is a highly inflammable gas. In classical terms, we need oxygen for a fire. That is in house or for rest of the things to fire, we need oxygen. But the sun is not actually on fire. It does not require oxygen. Its heat and the light come from the nuclear fusion reactions, mainly combining hydrogen to make helium. And so this process does not require oxygen to happen. So the sun burns without oxygen. Actually, it is not originally getting fire. The light and the heat from the sun make to see like that. Next question, why do lightning storms produce characteristic smell? We all know this lightning strikes produces ozone, hence the characteristic smell is observed after these storms. That is, there is always a fresh, clean smell after a good thunderstorm. This is responsible for this the presence of ozone. That is the ozone, the triplet oxygen molecule acts as a protective stratosphere. Ozone, the triple oxygen molecule that acts as a protective stratospheric blanket against ultraviolet rays, is created in nature by lightning. When it strikes, the lightning cracks oxygen molecules in the atmosphere into radicals which reform into ozone. The smell of ozone is very sharp, similar to that of chlorine. This gives the clean smell sensation after a thunderstorm. You know, the lightning strike may sometimes reach a staggering temperature of 30,000 degrees Celsius, that is 54,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Next interesting question is DNA a flame retardant? Aside from helping to determine whether a family relationship exists between two persons or identify the origin of diseases, DNA is also used to kill flames. That is, Italian researchers coated a cotton cloth with a DNA derived from herring sperm and found out that the cotton did not burn. This is because DNA's natural structure makes it is an ideal intumescent fire retardant substance. That is, it has backbone of sugar, phosphate, and nitrogen-based molecule. DNA is composed of backbone of sugar, phosphate, and nitrogen base, and hence this because of this it is used as a fire retardant coating on a normally highly flammable cotton sample. Now let us see the chemistry facts behind some nature things. So, till now we have seen the basic concepts of air and its pollution, water and its pollution, soil and its pollution, and fire with some interesting facts. And now we'll move on to the facts behind some nature things. First question is, can goldfish see ultraviolet infrared rays? Yes, a goldfish is the only aquatic animal on earth that can see infrared and the ultraviolet light. Some goldfish looks like they have bubbles of skin covering their eyes. This goldfish can live to be 5 to 10 years old. Most goldfish retina, ganglion cells, and wavelength photopic spectral sensitivity function reflects both wavelength additive mechanisms and wavelength opponent mechanisms. And this is the reason that goldfish can see IR and UV rays. Next question is Mars is red. Why? We all know this. Earth is considered as the blue marble planet, whereas this Mars is considered as a red planet. It is Earth is covered in oceans and has a thick atmosphere, giving it as a blue appearance. Mars is covered in a lot of iron oxide, and due to this iron oxide, it is red in color. It also has frozen water today, and Mars is usually pretty cold. The air pressure on Mars is only 1%, and Mars has about 95% carbon dioxide, 3% nitrogen, 1.6% argon, and a few other elements in its atmosphere. Next question, is there helium on Earth and how do we collect it? There is a lot of helium on the universe. In fact, it is the second most abundant element next to hydrogen. It is located underground the earth. It is basically extracted in the same process that we use to get natural gas from the mines. The amount of helium present in the natural gas is then separated using cryogenic separation process. This helium is lighter than air and hence it floats. Next interesting question is, why do national highways have this deadly beauty? This deadly beauty plant is referred as the Nerium oleander plant. Small greens, this is used in the widened city roads in all the roadways because is a it is used for pollution control factor. All parts of Nerium oleander are toxic due to something called a cardiac glycoside. The substance cardiac glycoside gives the toxicity for that plant. These hot-stopping chemicals are most concentrated in the seeds and roots, followed by the fruits and the leaves. There are two types of plants like red flowering plants and white flowering plants. Both the colored plants are planted in the roadways. Red flowering plants have more cardiac glycosides than white flowering plants, and there is more it of for the flowering time. These plants have the ability to absorb dust and pollutions, and the cattle does not taste this plant, and hence for this reason also they are planting in front of the roadside. Even if it is a garden plant, it is planted along highways because it is a shrub and that does not magnification enough to cover the path on the opposite lane. We can see the opposite lane. So hence it is sufficiently green. For all these reasons, this Nerium oleander plant is planted on the widened city roads. Next question, is cow dung an antiseptic? Cow dung contains a substance similar to penicillin which has a disinfecting effect and reduces and kills bacteria that causes diseases. Applying cow dung is a part of cleaning process in Indian villages. Cow dung acts as a natural mosquito repellent too. Cow dung is high in organic materials and rich in nutrients. It contains about 3% nitrogen, 2% phosphorus, and 1% potassium. In addition, cow manure contains high levels of ammonia and potentially dangerous pathogens. Biogas from domestic waste. Our college, Jamal Muhammad College, has successfully constructed a biogas plant in the hostel campus by utilizing all the domestic and the kitchen waste. The biogas generated is further used for cooking purposes in our hostel. Benefits of biogas: it is the production of energy, transformation of organic waste to very high quality fertilizer, improvement of hygienic conditions through reduction of pathogens, environmental advantages through protection of soil, water, air, microeconomic benefits by energy and fertilizer substitutes, and macroeconomic benefits through decentralized energy generation and environmental protection. If we see this composition of biogas, that is methane constitutes the largest part, that is 55 to 60 percentage, and carbon dioxide 35 to 40 percentage, water 2 to 7 percentage, and hydrogen sulfide, ammonia, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen constitutes a traces amount. Next question is henna a carcinogen? Henna or meganthi we all use. It is a medicinal plant. It is known as Lawsonia. Its barks and seeds are used in Unani and Ayurvedic medicines too. The leaf powder of this henna sap is also used to stain hairs, nails, and bird. Henna is widely used in the cosmetic industry as dyeing agent also. The main ingredient in henna dye is hydroxynaphthoquinone, which is obtained from the leaves of the Lawsonia tree. Hydroxynaphthoquinone. This is not alone is not carcinogenic, but when this is combined with paraphenylene diamine (PPD), this mixture has been documented as causing problems. Uh, Henna, why it is giving red color? The leaves of the henna plant contains a natural and very effective coloring pigment lawsone. The pigment present in this plant is lawsone. The formula is 2-hydroxy-1,4-naphthoquinone. It is also known as hennotonic acid. Its chemical formula is C10H6O3. The orange or the red dye releases as the leaves are crushed. The lawsone dye molecules actually color the hair and skin by safely binding to their protein molecules. That is, this lawsone bind to the protein molecules in our skin, and hence it gives red color to the skin. Next question, what venom that honey bee contains? Here, the bee stings are acidic while wasp stings are alkaline. Honey bee sting venom contains peptin melittin. This is highly acidic, while the wasp stings are alkaline in nature, and when stung by a wasp, the venom can be neutralized by applying something acidic such as vinegar to reduce the pain. Next question, blue blood of lobster. We know, do you know why? The lobster blood is colorless until it's exposed to air. The blood then appears to be blue. That is, the bluish tint of the lobster's blood is due to the presence of copper found in the blue's hemocyanin molecule in their blood. Hemocyanin is present in the blood of this lobster. Here, the oxygenation causes the color change between the colorless copper 1 deoxygenated form and the blue copper 2 oxygenated form. Due to this reaction, this color is getting blue in color. The blood is getting blue in color. Next very interesting question is, why does the lotus leaf repel water? Lotus leaves are considered as a waterproof and dirt proof too. This is due to the phenomenon known as superhydrophobicity. That is, the lotus leaf has superhydrophobic surface nature of its leaves. The superhydrophobic coatings are also found in nature, that is, they appear on plant leaves such as the lotus leaf and some insect wings. This superhydrophobic coating is nowadays a current research is going on in this topic, and it is a nanoscopic surface layer that repels water. Adding a superhydrophobic coating makes the surface liquid and water repellent, easy to clean, and boosts its anti-icing performances. Icing performance. Apart from the steel, the coating can be done on other metallic surfaces such as aluminium, copper, and brass. The coatings have also been developed for glass, cloth, paper, and wood. One such example for this superhydrophobic coating is made with polyurethane and silicon dioxide nanoparticles. In the case of the coated sample, the water droplets roll away, leaving the surface free of dust. That is, it repels water. Next, we see about this infrared reflective coatings. IR reflective paints are nowadays in current use because it can slow the rising temperatures by reflecting near IR rays of sunlight efficiently. The primary purpose of this coating is to keep the object cooler. Titanium oxide is reflects the visible and in the infrared rays. IR reflective coatings are used in houses, buildings, glass, steel, roof, windows, automotives, etc. One such example for this cool roof coating is bismuth titanate. Nickel, manganese, ferrite blacks, and iron chromate brown blacks are also some of the IR reflective pigments that are used to provide dark colors with reduced heat buildup. Cadmium cyanide is one of the most transparent heat reflecting semiconductors used for making infrared reflective coatings. Some interesting facts. Let us see some interesting facts, and the chemistry begins the facts. Are ATM receipts safe? Do you know that the what is the chemical present in the slip of that ATM receipt? That is bisphenol A. This chemical is regarded as the endocrine disrupting chemical that is found in dense concentration in all receipts, and prolonged exposure could adversely impact the health of men, women, and the children. Not only in ATM slips and all the bills of our local grocery stores, petrol pumps, and any other receipts that could expose you to this bisphenol A, which will cause irritation in the eyes and it disturbs the central nervous system. This is the structure of the bisphenol A. Next, health effects from exposure to asbestos. In many houses, stores, or grocery shops, asbestos sheets are used to cover the surface. This exposure to asbestos prolongedly increases the risk of developing lung diseases. Three major health effects of asbestos are reported. One is lung cancer, another one is mesothelioma. It is a form of cancer between lung, chest, abdomen, and the heart. And next one is the asbestosis. It is a serious progressive non-cancer disease of the lungs. The chemical composition of this asbestos is Mg3Sa2O5OH4. The other types of wall belongs to the amphifold group of minerals and include the fibrous forms of anthopolite, amosite, crocidolite, tremolite, and actinolite. These are the other forms of this asbestos. Next, hydrofluoric acid is so corrosive that it can dissolve glass. Hydrofluoric acid is a solution of hydrogen fluoride in water and is a precursor to almost all fluorine compounds. It is a colorless solution that is highly corrosive, capable of dissolving many materials, especially oxide, and its ability to dissolve glass has been known from the 17th century. The world's strongest acid. It is the record holder used to be fluorosulfuric acid. Fluorosulfuric acid, but the carborane superacids are hundreds of times stronger than the fluorosulfuric acid and over a million times stronger than the concentrated sulfuric acid. So carborane superacids are considered as the strongest acid. Next question, is chalk dust harmful to humans? Chalk is composed of planktonic skeletons and made of microfossils. Chalk is a soft, white, porous, sedimentary carbonate rock, a form of limestone composed of a mineral calcite. Actually, swallowing a piece of white chalkboard chalk does not kill us, but breathing in chalk dust for a number of years together, it can create or trigger respiratory problems or lung problems. The potential acute health effects of a calcium sulfate or calcium carbonate present in this chalk dust. It also includes irritation to the eyes, skins, and respiratory tract, etc. Next question, do you know the safety of airbags which is used in the cars? Actually, the chemical used in this airbag is the sodium azide, NaN3, which is very toxic. Actually, the crashes trip sensors in the cars that send an electrical signal to the igniter. The heat generated causes sodium azide to decompose into sodium metal and nitrogen gas, which inflates the car's airbag. Since sodium metal is potentially explosive, The airbags also contain several compounds that would react quickly with sodium to avoid any danger. And hence this NaN3 is used in the airbags of cars. And finally, one interesting thing about this breath test is it is used by the traffic police. The breath sample is actually bubbled in vial through a mixture of sulfuric acid, potassium dichromate, silver nitrate, and water. The principle of the measurement is based on the following chemical reaction. That is, in this reaction, the sulfuric acid removes the alcohol from the air into a liquid solution. That is, potassium dichromate is used in this reaction. So far we have seen four different contents in this chemistry of environment topic. One is air, water, soil, and fire. And we also have seen some basic facts and the interesting facts behind the nature and the natural things which occur in the environment. And finally, some questions regarding the specialization of chemistry, that is acting chemistry in our daily life activities, and answer for that. So I thank you all for this session. If we disturb the nature will disturb us, and each and everything in the nature is made up of chemistry, and chemistry is present all over the world in the full environment. So if we preserve nature, the nature will preserve us. Thank you. All the best.